moving on, President William Ruto has called on the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, that is IMF, to extend debt relief to developing countries hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. Giving Kenya's national statement at the ongoing United Nations General Assembly, UNGA, in New York City on Wednesday night, President Ruto said countries like Kenya are on the brink of losing development gains amid pandemic-related disruptions. He urged lending organizations to give special consideration to nations also affected by conflict and climate change. Millicent Luamba followed up on that story and brings us the following report.
Kenya's President William Ruto on Wednesday asked continental colleagues to see the climate crisis as Africa's biggest problem, suggesting more financial focus on taming its effects. Speaking on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly in New York, the president indicated while the world should focus on rebuilding from the COVID-19 pandemic and other crises, Africa may find itself hurt more by climate change in spite of contributing the least of its causes.
I fully agree with the Secretary General's memorable statement that, and I quote, "We have a rendezvous with a climate disaster," end of quote. I add that we must not be taken by surprise. If indeed forewarned is forearmed, this is our opportunity to mobilize with tremendous urgency and take action at once. Excellencies, the agricultural sector has an important part to play in reducing the severity of climate change. A number of practices have a bearing, positive or negative, on various dimensions of the environment. Investing in modern agricultural technology is therefore one important avenue towards tackling prevailing environmental changes. Kenya is responding through substantial investment in climate-resilient agriculture. At the core of our 10-year strategy for agricultural sector growth and transformation are 9 flagships.
He told a gathering of African leaders at the continental meeting that these are important issues affecting the entire world. The greatest challenge that connects our world is climate change, and unfortunately, due to many pressing concerns, climate has not been given the prominence it deserves.
Tourism. We invite development partnerships to invest in Africa towards building capacity to sustainably utilize marine resources. We must rally together to make the best use of Africa's vast blue resources in developing our economies while meeting our climate targets. As we look forward to the 27th Conference of Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, COP27, scheduled for Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, it is logical to expect that member states will shift their attention towards the development and implementation of frameworks for climate change mitigation.
Africa produced under 4% of greenhouse gases, the pollutants that have caused global warming over the past decades, contributing to irregular climate such as frequent floods, longer drought, as well as the spread of pests like desert locusts. Senegalese President Macky Sall, the current African Union chairman, said Africa must be given its adequate share of resources to adapt to climate change. He added, saying that they see adaptation funding not as aid, but as a contribution by industrialized countries to a global partnership of solidarity in return for efforts by developing countries to avoid the pollution patterns that have plunged the planet into the current climate emergency.
Ahead, I therefore call upon all of us to urgently deliver on all commitments made towards climate change financing. On this matter, it is critical to emphasize that we are running out of time.
Among Ruto's agenda at the UN meeting is to hold discussion with world leaders on fertilizer production and green energy aimed at enhancing Kenya's agricultural production.
To these targets, we must, in the immediate term, find answers to the severe deficit in the availability, flow, and accessibility of fertilizer to our farmers worldwide.
Prior to his US trip, Ruto affected a fertilizer subsidy, which he said will empower farmers to produce food at an affordable cost and hence lower food prices in the country. Millicent Luamba, Maisha Prime News, Maisha Television.